my influences are all over the map. I think my primary influences I could attribute to my dad. He definitely got me into music as a kid, and I grew up on Pink Floyd, The Who, The Beatles, and my older brother. He's like 7 years older than me, and he had like the cool music taste when I was growing up, and he was really into Green Day and like Offspring in the 90s. So I kind of had this weird clash of classic rock, and then my brother really liked punk of the day.
Welcome to the Better Each Day podcast radio show with Bruce Hilliard. Today and every day, reaching out for innovative ideas in every way. Today's show is brought to you by your future. It comes with a lifetime guarantee. Make a better each day now, baby. Better in every way.
You're listening to Seattle's Greet the Sea. Brett Shelton, Nik Pfeifer, Ryan Mulligan, and Ross Powell. I'd like to welcome the two members of Greet the Sea. We're talking to Ross Powell and Brett Shelton. Brett, you're the lead vocalist, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And you play guitar. And we're missing Ryan Mulligan, the drummer, and Nik Pfeifer, guitar and vocals as well. And
yeah, Nick's out hiking somewhere, and Ryan's probably building something really cool.
Building something cool. What does he build?
Yeah, he's a carpenter. He's does some pretty amazing stuff. He actually helped Brett build a pedal board about a year ago, 2 years ago. No, well, I guess he built this one too.
Yeah,
he built this one too. Yeah, he's helped me build like 3 pedal boards at this point.
I saw a picture of it. Yeah. Very impressive.
You can also use it as a surfboard.
Can you?
It floats.
That's good. Could he build me one?
Oh, I'm sure he could.
Yeah.
I was telling him the real money is in building custom pedal boards, not trying to make music. Yeah.
Probably true. And, they talk of starving artists, and there's no reason to starve because you just have to have a day gig or 2 or 3.
Yeah,
And then you can...
Which is what our setup is.
Yeah, you're not alone. I don't know a lot of people that do it full time without some sort of, win the lottery or Aunt Tilly. Yeah, that's cool. You guys are you're working on an album, correct?
For a really long time, yeah. It's been a process. We've been apparently working on it since 2016. Is what we keep saying, but really we just started. Is kind of the the truth of the matter, really.
It's a long process. Again, you're not alone. I think a lot of people spend years on stuff and then change it. Or another thing is the song's written, then you take it and play it for whatever, take it out on the road, and it turns into a different version. Maybe not an entirely different song, but you hear that story quite a bit as well.
Yeah, and that's probably what happened to us in late 2015 is we really didn't play any live shows prior to our first release. And then, kind of coming out of nowhere, we really had to put our music out there and play a bunch of live shows. So that first year, 2016, just kind of ate up a lot of our time. Yeah. And locally and then you end up introducing road testing songs, and you find out things that don't work, and then you think you can write faster than You actually do.
And the day job gets in the way too.
And the day job, of course, yeah.
Yeah, because you have to eat and pay the rent and things like that. What is your writing process? How do you guys come up with ideas?
It really starts with kind of like a cool riff or a cool drum beat. Not even really a skeleton of a song. We all kind of come to practice, and one of us will have a riff, or one of us will have a new beat or a groove that kind of appeals to everybody else, and we just start from there. And then a lot of other times we'll be working on something for a live show, like an in-between transitional thing, because I think our shtick is to connect songs and jam live, and we'll end up kind of inadvertently writing a song because we wanted to write a jam to play live that nobody had heard before. And so it kind of starts with that fundamental like nugget of a piece of a song or a jam, and then we just kind of work it out from there. We all kind of contribute to the composition.
Yeah, there's been times where people have brought in fairly finished songs or products, and then other people will, pick apart, certain aspects of that song, and, then another person jumps in with an idea, and then the song kind of takes a whole new life form, and it kind of gets to the point where it's like, oh, where did we start with this song?
Yeah. So
it's a lot of ad lib. Do you ever just like finish a jam and look at each other and go, what did we just do? Let's do it again.
Well, it's funny. We were actually just talking to another friend who asked us the same question. Oh, what's your writing process? They're also a fellow musician. And one nice thing is we have our setup set to record all of our jam sessions. And, when we listen back, sometimes when you're in the moment, you think, oh, this is just an incredible song. This is awesome. And then you listen back and wasn't the best piece of work, or vice versa. Sometimes, you're playing and it's just frustrating in the moment, but when you listen back, okay, we can pick apart some of those nuggets and maybe run with that.
The consequence of it is we end up capturing way too much to ever go back through. So we end up with, hard drives full of stuff that will probably never see the light of day, but but we thought it was good in the moment,
Pay somebody to listen to the hours of recordings.
Yeah, it would be tough to like listen back on double speed or something, unless you're going to do an Alvin and Chipmunks record or something like that. Yeah, they
make some money that way.
We just stole our idea for our second album. That was our entire plan.
Damn. Well, I'll make sure you get all the royalties, because I know it's going to be huge. Well, that's
10 cents.
So you basically, it's a team effort then. Nobody just walks in with something and says, here's what we're going to do.
No, yeah, I think we've, since our inception as a band and kind of our writing dynamic, none of us have had the mentality of we should figure out an entire song on our own and then come to practice with it. Although I think there's an open door for that. I mean,
that's
certainly
cool.
When Nik first joined the band, he had most of a song written for his guitar part, and we kind of fleshed our parts around that and inadvertently changed the entire mood of the song in the process. But I mean, all for the better. I think that's kind of our approach, is we want to all make it better together. And I really feel like each of us have our own unique take on what we do, and so our crutch in that sense is that we just kind of think, oh, Ryan will come up with a drum beat that'll work to this later, and I don't have to think about that right now. So it ends up being a very kind of spontaneous collaborative effort, and I think but we still have that door open to let's bring in a full song. I just think we all like the process better with each other of writing a song.
Yeah, I think we've all mentioned before that it's really tough to find other musicians that you trust and you are comfortable with sharing your ideas, and even suggesting things that they do on their own instrument. Like Brett has, turned to me and say, oh, what if you try this? And, I've turned to Ryan and maybe, hey, try this little drum beat. And we trust each other. We appreciate each other's feedback. There's no awkward, hey, you're stepping in my territory. We all kind of trust the vision, I guess, that we all have in the song.
There's a certain amount of ego involved. Yeah, that's cool that you can do that. And lyrics sometimes like could come on like I tore this directly out of my diary, and it's so personal I can't share it. All those wonderful things that go into it. I'm curious, what are your influences? What got you guys started?
My influences are all over the map. I think my primary influences I could attribute to my dad. He definitely got me into music as a kid, and I grew up on Pink Floyd, The Who, The Beatles, and my older brother, he's like 7 years older than me, and he had like the cool music taste when I was growing up, and he was really into Green Day and like Offspring in the 90s. So I kind of had this weird clash of classic rock, and then my brother really liked punk of the day, and alternative of the day, but now I'd say, I mean, my influences primarily fall into, I mean, I guess like Appleseed Cast, Pinback is one of them. Pink Floyd is such a huge part of my history that I would say I still have a lot of their influence in it, and my dad would definitely say that too.
I hear that.
I'd say some of those classic rock bands are definitely kind of what got me first really interested in music. Yeah, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, Hemispheres by Rush. That was another huge album that was really, opening an album with like a 20-minute song. Who does that? So that kind of, definitely got me interested in music. And then, just as I got older, my music the taste has changed a little bit. But going back to those classic rock bands is probably where that got started.
That doesn't amaze me, because I hear that a lot. And I always think, well, nobody listens to Pink Floyd, for instance, but they've survived the test of time. And Dark Side of the Moon seems to be one that is mentioned quite a bit. And I remember it came with stickers and all kinds of stuff in the album. I don't know if you can get that anymore, but that was always cool about the vinyl records and stuff. It always came with...
My dad had a ton of vinyl records as a kid. I don't think we never had a turntable to play it on, which is kind of funny now that like turntables are such a popular thing. Yeah. But I remember first listening to Dark Side of the Moon, and I think I was probably like 10 or 11 years old, where I would listen to it just like in my bedroom, just listen front to back, no distractions, middle of the day, and just kind of dream of like, oh, these guys are so good at what they do and so good at playing music. I wish I could play music. I always thought, like, growing up, that playing guitar or playing in a band was so difficult and so beyond typical reach of a kid. I was didn't know any better, that I just thought, like, these guys are so amazing. They are amazing.
And to make a record like that that's so classic and that has sold so many records yet is not well tailored towards like radio play. It's just amazing.
It's funny, they're still saying it, folks. Whenever they talk about concept albums, there's Dark Side of the Moon, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. They always come up, and maybe Pet Sounds, Beach Boys. But to me, Dark Side of the Moon, they had a single. Money was a single, and it almost didn't work. To me, it was like, no, you have to play the rest of the album. It just doesn't belong as a single.
A song especially, in 7/4 and everything, and and it's like just the middle piece of the album. You don't get the whole cake.
Experience.
Yeah.
I have to ask this. So, Greet the Sea. How did you come up with that name? And I want to be the really funny original guy and say, Greet the Sea. It sounds like it has a deep meaning. Hilarious, right? Yeah.
Brett, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I'll take it, Brett.
I'll field that one.
It's hard to follow that one, yeah.
I think when we came up with the name, we struggled for a long time, I think, with the name, and we had other names that just didn't work that we were sticking with for far too long. But the name, I think, to us, and Ross, I think you're the one that pitched it. You just had the idea, but to us, represents something about the I guess the literary aspect of the sea, being that represents struggle, hardship, unpredictable nature, and for us, Greet the Sea means to open your arms to that, open up to the conflict, and open up to things you're not sure about. And really, I think why that made sense for us as a band is us when we got together and started playing as a group. I think we had all been away from music for a number of years, and each of us had a similar background. We started playing music when we were teenagers. Most of us went to the same high school, and we all were kind of in each other's peripheral in terms of network. But we all kind of fell away from music for a few years, and I think when we came back to music and we just kind of happened to cross paths because we knew each other, but we weren't friends. This kind of represents a return to the thing that we love, music, and return to kind of the uncertainty that brought us to music, and also the struggle of music, but also kind of the open-endedness that the sea represents a vast horizon possibility, and that's what got us to music in the first place. So I think the name just made sense for us as individuals because of that, because of the unique circumstance, and we all didn't know that we had fallen away from it, but we realized it, gravitated back to each other, and kind of built this band around that idea.
So it is.
Yeah, it's interesting that it kind of brought us back, even though we were kind of running in different social circles, like, our passion for music and, interest in continuing on and being, creative in writing new music, bringing us back together. I think it's kind of interesting because most of my friends kind of hung up the whole music venture at that time, while we were kind of hitting the point where we wanted to get back into music. And now that we've been doing it for a while, I don't really see us stopping anytime soon, so just keep plugging away, and who knows.
So did you get together after high school then?
Oh yeah. It was we had all been in various bands, I think, in high school, just multiple bands each, and I knew I knew Ross, I knew Ryan, Nik, of course, he's from Portland. He didn't go to the same high school as us, but I knew Ross and Ryan, but I wasn't well connected with you guys. I had friends. You guys were friends of my friends at the time, and then I think it was probably around 2012 or so when I first met Ryan, and he played drums and at a jam session that I was at, and that was kind of the genesis of the band in a way. But yeah, we all really didn't know each other in high school at all, I think. Yeah, was the thing.
Where was your high school?
Marysville Pilchuck. It was the high school we went to.
Oh.
Yeah. I was class of 05. You were class of
07.
07. I think Ryan was that too, right?
Yeah.
So Nik was from Portland?
Yeah, he's from I think Portland area. I think he actually is from a town in Washington, technically, but
he's the newest member, even though he's been a member for since the beginning, I guess. Before we released our first album, but he'll probably forever be branded as the new guy.
Yeah,
he's
not a new guy. No, he's
and the stereotype is he's from Portland. He must be a hippie. Okay.
Yeah. Well, he probably is the closest.
The closest.
He is the mountaineer of the group.
I told you he was hiking somewhere.
Does he eat cattails and things like that?
He could. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, you heard it first
and be like, I didn't know you guys thought that of me.
Ladies and gentlemen, he couldn't make it because he has cattail poisoning.
He's not here, so we can throw him under the bus.
It's always important to select somebody that's absent from the band meeting for really tough criticism.
Absolutely.
Whenever you
do
can.
that all the time.
Yeah.
Hi, Nik.
That's key to keeping the band together. Can we start off talking about Bad News in Phoenix? What in the heck?
I guess Bad News in Phoenix is just or the title is really kind of silly, and
it's kind of a secret, which is why Brett is being a little hesitant to spill the beans. And we actually have a kind of an ongoing joke of we're not going to tell the meaning of the song until somebody gets the reference. So there's an ongoing
the reference of the title. The title of the song "Bad News" is a reference to something, and it could be construed as an inside joke, but it's yeah. But the song itself, I think, is a.
I like a good definitive answer like that. That's nice.
Yeah.
I need a lyric sheet. Maybe I can figure it out.
I think that's kind of our another thing that we end up doing is we end up giving song titles that have almost nothing to do with the meaning of the song in a lot of cases. But Bad News does have a little bit of meaning. I think the song itself is a good representation of. I think that was probably the second song we wrote as a group, and it took us forever to write it. I'm not sure why. I think that was kind of the struggle of us returning to music in a way. But it was one of those songs where we had two parts and we didn't know how we were going to connect them, but we knew we wanted to for some reason, and we thought that was the idea to pursue. And so I think we spent probably a month or two just hashing on the same stuff over and over until it finally came to fruition. And I think that's where we found our footing as a group writing. And then lyrically, the song to me fits in because it's a song that's kind of familiar, but also unfamiliar. And I like the kind of up and down structure of the song, and through the lyrics, I guess I kind of end up talking about up and downs in life in a way. I guess I'm reluctant to always talk about like literal meanings of songs, just because anytime I've heard somebody talk about the literal meaning of a song, I feel like it's pulling the rug out a little bit. But I like the idea of people listening to it, getting their own idea of what it's about, because I think that's always been my approach to lyric writing is not what I consider it to be about, but that it's something relatable. And Bad News is sort of like a up and down chronicle of life in and of itself, similar to I guess in a way of like my struggle of going back and forth with music.
Wandered through a familiar place, color
So Bob Dylan got a Nobel Prize doing those sorts of things. but so you're up next. Yeah, you're entirely right. You know, there should be lyrics that are left open for people to bring in their own meaning, and I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, I think all the songs that that have stuck with me from like when I listened from as a teenager to I listened to a few months ago, the songs that stick with me, the songs that connect to me, not just lyrically but also kind of the vibe of the song. I think that's how vocals are always written last in our group, and it's more of not because out of any particular reason other than that it just makes sense when we write songs. I feel like the flow is just in the music, and vocally when I go to try and write vocals and lyrics to it, I want to capture the vibe of the music and not counteract it or step on the toes or shape a song around what I want to accomplish vocally. I've just always seen vocals as a thing that supplements it. So I think that's the songs that I gravitate towards or hang on to. That's what I'm ultimately trying to emulate, is just a certain mood, a certain atmosphere, and the words themselves can be taken a number of different ways. I think that's probably for the better, because you get too specific and then you shut people out, or people just can't identify with it. It's kind of the end result, I guess.
And we will continue in part 2 with Greet the Sea.
I could see you